Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Another week goes by. I have no idea what date it is anymore, but the show must go on. We will keep on talking about this game.
Yeah. This game is Hearthstone, and we don't really have much of a plan for today, so we're just going to talk about the arena meta and the BG meta. But
Yes.
first, I don't know when people have been opening up, but Charlotte was fully open this weekend. Not like fully open, but open with social distancing measures in place, and so I managed to like go get a haircut, sit down and eat in a restaurant, and it was just a good weekend.
Wow. Look at you. A haircut. That's
Hmm.
something, as you can see, I do. Wait, and you still have that
Yes, I still
thing
have the
on your chin?
goatee. Why
Why?
get rid of it? We're still technically under quarantine. I ain't going back to work yet. I can do whatever I want. I mean, I'm working, but remotely. And when I work remotely, they don't force you to use video, so no one sees me. So I don't need
Good.
to. I don't need to do anything.
That's a very good thing
I could
for
keep
every.
this scraggly, not terribly great looking goatee going.
What does brand new think of your goatee?
I think at this point she's just like it's Stockholm syndrome. Initially, she really hated it. Now she's just accepting of it, and she refuses to comment on it one way or the other.
Fascinating. All right. Anyways, uh, you want to start talking about arenas or BGs?
Let's start with arenas. So the arena meta obviously hasn't changed. The nerfs and the buffs. I think warrior is down less than 0.5%. Demon hunters are down about 0.5% because they got nerfed. So now they're well below 40%, which is still don't play demon hunters. I actually played a demon hunter run just to see how it was. It was bad. Like
It's pretty bad.
I got three legendaries that were pretty decent, and I still couldn't get more than 4 wins. Like they're just
Yeah, I faced a couple demon hunters this week. Yes, I have played the arena. The only reason one won against me was because they played an unseen saboteur, uh, and which triggered my Conjurer's Calling to Conjurer's Calling his unseen saboteur into two.
oh
Yeah,
god.
exactly. So it took one of my Conjurer's Callings, and it turned one of his six drops into a gyrocopter, and the other into I forget some like actually really big six drop, and it was sort of like a pick your poison kind of thing because I could only remove one, and I removed
Hmm.
the gyrocopter, but I couldn't remove the other, and so I died.
Wow.
Typical arena game though, right?
Yeah. I mean, arena right now is as high swingy as it's been. The fact that games go on for a while now, compared to like prior metas, makes the swings somewhat less bad, but it's still a high swing game. You notice we haven't been doing too many card good bads. We're gonna do one today, but that's not because there's not a lot of interesting cards in the arena. It's more that the interesting cards in the arena don't do much. And
No.
that's because they're interesting. There are too many just flat out overpowered cards that anyone can play and that has very obvious overpowered effects that the interesting cards that take nuance to play and to play well and can get you that extra 1/1 or 2/2 stats on the board or an extra card worth of advantage is like not totally unimportant, but it's a lot less important than it used to be, and it feels like not a wasted effort, but a low return effort to really figure out these cards. That's not to say we haven't been doing it. It's just when you drill down to that level, you have to like find good targets. It's like how what's Twin Tyrant's effect on the meta? Fine, right? But like overconfident orc is what we're doing today. What's
Uh,
overconfident orc's effect on the meta? It's significant, but like when do you play it? What do you do with it? Like knowing what to do with the card and not knowing what to do with the card, even though I feel like on average everybody has one of these in their decks, um, it's not gonna win you many games. It's gonna win you like a quarter of a game per run more to be like an
yeah,
expert on this versus to just treat it like a 3/4 with taunt. Um,
something like that.
yeah. So it's not that important, but it matters. So let's start there. Let's talk about overconfident orc. When would you not play overconfident orc? Let's start there because it's a 3/6 taunt for 3 mana, but it stops it having 3 attack and goes down to 1 attack after it gets hit even once. Like it gets damaged even once.
Sure. Well, okay. Let's just talk about. In order to answer this, like, when would you not play? It's like, well, what do you like about overconfident orc,
Yeah,
right?
why is it a 119 on our tier list?
Exactly. You like it because number one, it's a taunt. That's good. And number two, if you are able to make it awkward for your opponent, it's a severely overstated taunt.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when would you not want to put it out? Obviously, we go to what we just talked about when it's really not awkward for your opponent. Number one, and number two, whenever you don't really need a taunt. Here's the thing that I think a lot of people make a mistake about. Generally, they want to play a taunt, assuming you have choices, obviously. But if you have choices, some people choose to play a taunt when they cannot play a taunt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because taunt, although you don't have initiative, has pseudo, initiative slash effect on the board.
It affects your opponent's next turn.
Exactly. Right. So why would you do that when you could just play something that is, that doesn't have any effect, right? Play your spider tank, play your whatever. So that's what you want to look at without like going into really specific board states. If you don't need a taunt and you can play something else that's about equal, play that. If they're able to very efficiently make your 3/6 into a 1/5, that's bad. Like a 1/5 is pretty bad for 3 mana, even with a little extra investment. Really sorry, Silverback Patriarch. It's but that's not good. So that's what you want to do. It's like you want to be able to drop it when it is potentially creating an awkward position for your opponent. And if you have a choice, probably don't drop it on a empty board. Assuming you have two options that are about the same. But yeah, I'm definitely not saying like, oh, never drop it. Like on an empty board, just save it for when you can get value out of the taunt. If you have choices, though, play something else.
Because the good thing about dropping it on an empty board is you don't get the taunt value the vast majority of times, but you do get the 3/6 value more often. Because now they have nothing to deal that extra damage, and they have to deal that extra damage on that turn, but they don't get to reap the rewards on that turn because they're not going to kill it on the same turn after they deal an extra damage. So they'll more likely leave it alone, and then you actually get 3/6 of value out of it, at least once, right? At least for one hit. I think, besides like not playing it out when your opponent has like a 1/1 on the board or whatever, a lot of people are hesitant about playing it against, like, let's say a mage or a druid, where they have to spend 2 mana to deal that 1 damage, and they're like, oh, but then it's a 1/5 taunt. Well, then you spend 1 mana on a 1/5 taunt, right?
Right.
So
against a mage, that's really good. You're essentially asking, do I want to play a 1 mana 1/5 taunt? That would be one of the best cards in the game, period. Right. Well, obviously you're not playing on turn 1 and blah, blah.
Even if you can't play it until turn 3, that would still be one of the best cards.
Yes. Yeah. So that's not what you're really afraid of. And in fact, lots of times when you do that, you kind of want them to ping because now we're operating in a universe in which you know about.
Yep.
And this is one of those metas in which if they are doing very safe, predictable things,
like using their hero power.
Yeah, exactly. Using your hero power has always been pretty underwhelming, a little bit anti-tempo, depending on what they're pinging and getting rid of. Especially now, though, the expectations for every single mana have been escalated. So them using their hero power is significantly, lower EV than in previous metas.
Unless
now
their hero power gives them a card. Because the cards are good. So Warlock's hero power aside, everyone else's hero power is getting quite a bit weaker. But what about Demon Hunters or Rogues, who effectively only take 1 mana to deal that 1 damage? So now you're getting a 2 mana 1/5 taunt. A 2 mana 1/5 taunt is still really good. With 2 mana, you get like a 1/4 taunt. I think that's what's standard. So a 1/5 taunt is not the most amazing card in the game, especially when you're not playing on turn 2, but it's still okay. Like a 1/5 taunt after turn, like on turn 3 is for 2 mana, and then you get to do something else with the remaining mana, which is to reduce your opponent's mana by 1. It's it's like Yeti level, pretty much. If it's not exactly Yeti level, it'll be pretty damn close to it. So generally speaking, I think something that people like, I think a lot of people overthink this card and will hold it because they're scared of the opponent's hero power. Well, one, the opponent's hero power will never go away, right? They will always be able to hero power unless like the rogue buffs a weapon or something. But really, they'll always be
Yeah.
able to do it. So you're not really escaping that. And two, you're still gaining on tempo, even if you're facing a demon hunter and rogue, and definitely if you're facing a major druid. Not to mention that you're screwing with their turn. Like we all have this demon hunter card now that's like, what is it? Something mana, consume mana, take mana, burn mana, mana burn. Which is, it should be a super terrible card, but it's not. Why? Not just because you're gaining 1 extra mana with it, like an Innervate would, but because you're messing with your opponent's turn. And with something like Overconfident Orc, you're giving your opponent the choice of whether to have their turns messed with. But if they don't choose to have their turn messed with, then you are getting a 3/6 with taunt, like for 3 mana, which is really good. So in some ways, it's like a Chaos Gazer. Like you're giving your opponents a choice, but they're pretty incentivized to make that choice.
Yeah.
So this is all like I wouldn't worry about that scenario. On the other hand, if your opponent has a 1/1, well, that's a somewhat worse scenario, or even worse if your opponent has like somehow like a 1/8 or something, and just trying to use it and kill it off for board space. Or you're suspecting your opponent may play a board clear. In which case, it's still fine. You get like a 1 whatever taunt. For 3 mana, you're not going to put much else that's going to be better against a board clear. But yeah, Overconfident Orc. You use it as a taunt first, then you use it as a regular minion, and finally, it's just so good in almost every scenario. Don't not use it unless it's being hard countered on the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, Overconfident Orc.
Otherwise, the arena is what it has been. If you want to play arena, so this week I played a mage. I played 2 decks. One was sort of the counter to this current meta, which was a rogue. And I was fortunate enough to draft 1 miscreant, but I had some Og merchants, some 1-drops, a cold blood, and I didn't have that much reach because reach is pretty hard to get
Really hard
nowadays.
to get these days,
Yeah. So not much reach, but I had 2 cursed vagrants. So that is my
that is
topper.
reach.
Yeah, that's reach because they can't really remove it. And I will always try to, time my removal such that after the vagrant's out onto the board, that's when I try to make sure that it's like, okay, now when they taunt, my betrayal will hit. I also didn't have much hard removal because like rogues are just not in a great place to play that really aggro, that counter punch that they want to play as. But if you play smart, you can kind of get there. So the 2 cursed vagrants were very helpful. So you can play that style first of all.
You can play
aggro
aggro with a decent number of classes these days. Not super
it's not
aggro,
really aggro,
but not the old style of aggro, but it's aggro for this meta. Your opponents will feel like you are aggro.
Yeah. So it's not aggro in any traditional sense at all. But you are faster, and you do want to end the game faster. And the other example was, I think, a lot of what you guys typically expect out of this meta, which was a mage. And your first look at the deck, it's like, oh, all of the cards are pretty bad. But it had 2 Arcane Explorers and 2 Arcane Breaths, which means those are limitless.
Those are insanely good.
Insanely good. So, and I had 1 Dragon Breeder. So it's the kind of deck in which case
RNG high rolly on a game-to-game basis.
Exactly. The rest of the deck was terrible.
Did you curve out?
What?
Did you curve out?
Not really. I
Yeah.
mean, I could, but lots of times it's like, for example, with the Dragon Breeder, unless I'm facing, for example, a Hunter or a Paladin, um, Demon Hunters I didn't really care much about. But even if I had the Dragon Breeder in my hand, it's like, okay, I'm not playing this.
Right.
I'm actually not playing this just because
At some point, it
uh,
will become Arcane Explorer and be infinitely better.
that's the thing, and that's what I'm doing with this meta. Oh, and sorry, I also had a Cobalt Spellkin, which is
Hmm.
amazing for mages right now because your chance of getting evocation that turns into whatever the hell you want is extraordinarily high. So yeah, you're lots of times mages these days are just casino mage,
Hmm.
not in the traditional constructed casino mage sense, but you are generating a lot of stuff, which just makes you kind of like the rest of the classes as well. But mages are especially very good at doing this kind of stuff, just generating lots of spells, generating lots of dumb stuff, such that you can't look at your deck on its face and judge how good it is. You need to look at Arcane Breath and look at Arcane Explorer as much more than that. You have to open up your sense of how a deck feels based on these sorts of cards, which I think is a skill that people are getting much more and more and more used to. But it could still take a bit of time because people might still be used to just looking at curve, looking at the face value, like a tier score kind of evaluation of the deck.
Hmm.
And if you just take Arcane Breath, like the double Arcane Breath into consideration, no sort of ranking system really would value them as high as like if you look at the deck and you look at all the dragons and you look at all the stuff, would rank them appropriately. So that's a skill that you want to be really working on. It's like, okay, how good is this deck? What's my win condition? But also, what does this arcane breath really mean? It means, damage plus. If you have two arcane breaths, your chances of discovering a further arcane breath is really high. So it's like I actually have three arcane breaths. I also have a box of Yogg. I also have a flame strike. I also have all of this stuff. The Cobalt Spellkin, sometimes I'll get evocation, which would mean this, mean that. Uh, I think it's a very useful skill for you to look at a deck and really evaluate that. Because without that, I think you might really misinterpret your deck and think that it's a lot worse or a lot smaller than it
Hmm.
actually is.
Yeah, always count the number of cards you have in your deck, and not
Yeah,
as in the fact that you have 30 cards, but cards that are actual cards versus cards that are not cards. Like an Ethereal Og Merchant or an Elven Archer are great cards, but they're not a card.
no,
On the other hand, an Arcane Breath is probably worth 3 cards, even though it's a 1 mana card.
yeah,
So these are the type of things, and once you know the size of your deck, you'll have this rough idea of how much you can compete in the what I'm going to call the normal game, which is the card advantage game, which is the normal game right now in Hearthstone. And if you feel yourself kind of middling or weak on card advantage, then you need to take aggressive action. Then if your opponent is just sitting there, especially if your opponent is one of those classes that but like priest or mage that is all about that card advantage these days, or warlock, you have to start punching them in the face sooner rather than later, or else you're going to be out card advantaged.
yep,
And also, what's very good is we're also talking about like having like a bad deck and then having high swing cards. High swing cards are best in worst decks, just like high swing cards are best with worst players. That's how these cards work. You want to swing, right? You can't swing past win. So the closer you start off the game to win, the weaker high swing cards are. The farther away you start the game to win, like let's say 50%, um, then like a super average player, then the more useful the high swing cards are. And again, not having a curve or not having a good curve is a way to high swing as well. It's built in. So those are your deck building outs when it comes to making a bad deck that Blizzard a low value deck, right? The Blizzard doesn't give you as much value as this meta should have, of making it grab the wins it needs to.
yep. Cool. So
Cool.
that's the arena now. Nothing has really changed. You know, I think people make a big deal out of like, oh, no decisions matter anymore. They still matter.
Hmm.
It is frustrating, right? You will get frustrated. I don't think any of us can can sugarcoat that. But it's all about expectations going in. You know, when you get hit by that Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, it's like, okay, well, fine, take this,
Hmm.
just move on. Like there really wasn't anything that you can do, and as long as you accept the fact that okay, well, Dragon Queen came down, you know, all the small advantages that I gained were for naught, and you just do your best. On to the next one. That's it.
So traditionally, you have three losses in a run, and they are due to one, total ridiculousness, one loss due to the fact that even if you had a curve, you don't hit your curve. Um, and then the third loss due to some reason, either you misplayed, or you didn't get a curve, or you just got unlucky and faced another ridiculousness, right? Just some other reason. These days, not having a curve is not really a reason for a loss. You'll probably lose like half a game to it at most. Um, not like craziness has doubled, so you're gonna lose two of your games to craziness if your deck even gets to like 9 wins. You're definitely gonna lose two of your games to craziness on average.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine you have an insanely good deck that's going to, on average, get like 9 wins, which is insanely high. No one averages 9 wins per run. Um, then you're going to lose two of your games. Two of the three games that you lose if you don't get 12. It's going to be too ridiculousness. But the curve losses go down a little, and then your misplay losses still make up the remainder. So overall, skill level in this meta compared to other metas probably halved, but not unplayable. And we just got to ride it out. Well, as long as Year the Dragon is in, we got to ride it out. There was nothing better that could have been done without, a lot more work on Blizzard's part that they're obviously not putting into the arena right now. So I'm excited about the rotation. That if the calendar is to be trusted, it should be coming out in like 2 weeks or something. But no news on it yet. Hopefully, we'll get some news on it soon. This meta seems like it's already in. Doesn't seem like they're going to make any micro adjusts. And even though Warrior has a 45% win rate almost, and Demon Hunters have a under 40% win rate, seems like Blizzard's is kind of done with that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about some BGs. Uh, you've been playing some this week, right?
Yeah, so Sunday we were doing pretty well, and then you were like, okay, I'm out, I'm going to bed, and I finished it off with a Flurgle run that went first. It placed first because I got like my first triple ended up with a Bran. Immediately I leveled up, and the first thing I saw was like a Bagurgle, and then I tripled up something else the next turn and got a Megasaur, and the Megasaur hit Poisonous and Divine Shield. Like, there was a turn in which I ended with 8 or 9 mana because I was doing too many things and I just couldn't like finish it off, and it didn't matter. Like, it's just nothing mattered, and I got first very easily. Then I picked it up and I got another first with God, I forgot which hero, some good one, I think Nas, some good ones. I got two back-to-back first places. And then I played Flurgle twice. And I got 8th place twice. Once was like I think I might have made some misplays and gone a little too slow. I'm not like very solid on that. But the second 8th place was 100% not my fault because Bob freaking told me that I was going to win like all the time. And then I didn't. And I kept losing. And I didn't have enough health to even go to 5. So I never even got to tier 5. Because I just didn't have enough health, and I had to stay on 3, and I still kept losing, even though I never spent the mana to level up to 5. It was terrible,
Life of a Flurgle.
super
Sometimes.
terrible. Like with Flurgle, if you get on a bad luck streak in the early game, like the early mid game, I guess, not the super early game. The super early game is pretty hard as Flurgle to get on a bad streak because there's so many Murlocs. And you can adjust for it by like leveling up if you need to, but the mid game, like around when you have when either you are basically around from when you ramp up to tier 3 to before you ramp up to tier 5. That's Flurgle's mid game. If you get screwed during that, I don't think there's anything you can do. And in my normal strats, if you get screwed during the mid game, you end up with 5th place. In Flurgle, if you get screwed in the mid game, you end up 7th or 8th. And that's what it is, right? You do that for the heroes that have a chance of getting number 1. A good chance of getting number 1.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like with Flurgle, overall, he's still quite good. Very, very consistent over a large sample size. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But he is very difficult to play, to figure out. There's just a bazillion decisions, even in the early turns. The amount of
Yeah.
like just brain racking that you have to do sometimes just on tier 1 and trying to edge out these advantages just so you can get to tier 5 and then pop off. It's exhausting with Flurgle. It's actually really, really exhausting. So first of all, you have to figure out how to play him, and then you have to play him over a larger sample size, because you are correct. It's like, here's the thing. People say Flurgle is a top 1 or a top 8 hero, and to some extent, I agree with it. But the implication there is that it's 50-50, in which case it's not. It's skewed more so towards the number 1 if you play him correctly. Are you going to get 7th and 8th places? Yes. Just based on the playstyle, based on the hero power, and
Whereas
based on...
for many heroes, if you're a good player playing well, 99.5% of the time, you will not get 7th or 8th. Because there's someone else that will get 7th and 8th because they're going for something like Flurgle or something else, or they're just a worse player than you, or they're just being like, somewhat more aggressive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you have a near guarantee to not get 7th or 8th as other heroes, even bad heroes, not like the worst heroes, but like your general pool of below average heroes. You can still get at least 6. I would say you could get 5th. Like a very high percentage of times. But with Flurgle, you can't. I feel like there's a baked in 15% chance you're gonna get 17, you're gonna get 7th or 8th, like no matter what you do.
Yes, and you accept that, and the only thing you can do is, once you get that, try your best to identify, was this a game in which I just, I was just gonna get 7th and 8th, or was this a game in which I made one mistake and instead of being number 1, I got number 8? Because that's how punishing Flurgle is. That is how punishing Flurgle is. If you make a mistake, you die. And you're not dying once you get to tier 5, most likely. Like, you're dying on tier 3 and tier 4, and all you have to do is get to tier 5. So you messed up your chance to take number 1 by getting to tier 5.
Yeah. The first time I got 8th, I was a coin flip away from stabilizing on tier 5. So 1, it meant I lost a coin flip. But 2, it meant there was probably some efficiencies I could have gotten earlier on that would have made it so I did not lose, and then I would, place top 4 at least, because I would have stabilized for a while other people dropped out. But instead, I got 8. Like, that's why I'm like, the second game I feel like I couldn't control. The first game that I got 8th, I would not be surprised if a better player would be able to get top 4 with that.
Yeah. And some games you just get craziness. Earlier today, I had a Flurgle game in which I got number 1 in the lobby and I had 36 health. So just domination from beginning to end. You guys won't be surprised to hear that I started with Murloc tokens. All right, and Bob gave me more and more Murlocs, and I just rolled with it. That's it. It's as easy as that. And then once you hit 3, I just got Seers and Felfin Navigators. Hit my triple immediately. Immediately got a Begurgle. So it was no brand the entire time, but I ended up with 4 mackerels. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes you just have one of those games as well, and it also goes to show you really don't need brand. Don't look for brand.
You ended up with 4 mackerels, as in like you decided to trip up your mackerels.
Yeah, because I didn't have a Gentle Megasaur at that point.
Oh, okay.
So if I don't have a Gentle Megasaur at that point, like if I don't have Divine Shield, what good is 2 mackerels for me? So I got the 3rd one, and then discovered a Megasaur, and then I passively just found another mackerel as well. Uh, so you typically don't do that, but sometimes you do have to do that. I think I got my Gentle Megasaur on, that was my 7th triple. All the ones before that were not Megasaur.
Hmm.
Um, but let's talk about the meta generally for a second, because we're in a really interesting spot. I played a lot. Let me tell you guys about my journey in BGs for the past week. Around, let's see, about a week and a half ago, I was trying to climb to 12K. I just told myself, I was like, okay, let's hunker down, let's try to climb. I got all the way up to 11.9, like 11.92. So pretty close. And then through some unfortunate circumstances, I'm not saying I played perfectly, but just playing the way I play, went all the way back down to like 11.1 at the end of Monday night stream. It did get me on Trollden, which I'm pretty happy about. So at least we got that. And if you guys don't know, check out the latest video. When I say unlucky,
Oh my god.
some incredible unluckiness. The entire stream was just a lot of Keck W's being thrown around. So after that, I was like, you know what? This climb exhausted me. It bothered me more than I wanted it to bother me. So I was just like, okay, let's just have some fun. Let's try to learn. Instead of just
Hmm.
me applying, let's try to learn. So I start off at like 11.1 at the end of the stream. And then for the next 5-6 days ish between the stream and now, I was like, okay, what do I need to work on? I need to work on Brand Khadgar. I want to try weird tiering times. For example, like leveling up on 6 gold, right? Which no one ever does. And I'm just like, I don't think it's good, but sometimes if the shop is bad, I'll just
Hmm.
like do it and see what happens. And it was a good learning experience for me. Good as in I dropped all the way down to 10.4 until I ultimately recovered back to 11.
Oh man, you were like 100 away from my high.
Well, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna tell you right now, hard forcing Bran Khadgar is not great for your MMR. Just FYI, FYI, right there. So 10.4, and then, but it was very, very helpful because you're not gonna get practice with Bran Khadgar unless you kind of force it, and the more practice you get with it, the better you get.
Is Brand
Because
Khadgar good?
I mean, it is very, very good. You also have to make a ton of decisions in a very, very short amount of time, and it was good practice. But um, I, because of the volume that I played this week in pursuit of learning, so I'm back over 11. We'll start tomorrow's stream over 11K for those of you guys who really care about this. um, uh, I don't like where the meta is right now because the meta is the most polarized it has ever been. Um, if you play, in the high MMR lobbies, so I'll say above 9K, because if you're above 9K, you're getting into the lobbies with like the leaderboard players, the highest people. Like, there's no real difference in terms of queuing between my account, which is at 11, and someone else's account, which is at 9K. We're both going to be facing about the same people. But the meta in high MMR lobbies right now is really feast or famine in terms of tier 1 strats versus tier 6 strats, and very little in between. So let's talk about the tier 1 strats for a second, because this is
Yeah.
something we talked about, but you weren't even aware of.
I mean, I didn't know how it was implemented. I just saw a bunch of people with these really big new cards, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna ignore what they're doing and do my thing. And it was good. Besides those like Flurgle games, I climbed back up pretty easily in my next 2 game, back above 10K, which was my goal. I didn't want to end the night on that, so I just ended the stream, and I was like, I'm just gonna chill out and play my game. Get fifth or above a couple times, and in 2 games, I got my like 50 MMR or whatever, and I got back up to 10K. But yeah, I see these things, these 3-1 death rattle things that grow to like 40, like 30s, or like whatever the hell they grow to. And I'm like, wow, people are doing some crazy stuff with it, but I never knew how, and they
Yep.
never like won, so it was kind of like
Nope.
just a bump in the road for me, and I don't really care because they don't deal a lot of damage.
So the strat that we're talking about are I'll call it tier one, but you don't always just stay on tier one. It's tier one Rabid Saurolisk strats. So Rabid Saurolisk, once again, is the new one drop. It's a 3/1 beast, and whenever you play a death rattle, it gains +1/+1. So the strategy here is obviously to have Sauralisks to snatch up other Sauralisks and to spam death rattles. It's as simple as that. It is a strat that is legit. It's not going to have you super climbing, but it is a strat that you need to be aware of. Number one, such that you can take advantage of other people playing against it, and number two, so that if you have an appropriate start with a decent hero, you can also utilize it to gain some MMR. Now, let's talk about heroes that are good for this strat. First of all, one hero is Reno. If you're Reno and you start off with a Saurolisk, definitely consider.
Mm.
I'm not saying you definitely should go for it. I went for it in the clip in which I got eviscerated by the best 9 gold turn I've ever seen. So, don't take that as an example. However, if you're Reno and you start off with a Saurolisk, you can buy the Saurolisk, and on turn two, you can hero power. It's a good use of your hero power as well. And suddenly, every death rattle that you buy is a +2/+2, which for that stage of the game is ridiculous. Actually, like absolutely ridiculous. And you want to keep on buying Sauralisks. And the secondary part of this strategy is selfless heroes. Because if you have big bodies, what do? You want to put divine shields on them. And if you're rolling on one, well, not only do selfless heroes buff up your Sauralisks, they are perfect for your Sauralisks because they are able to, provide that extra beef. So that is the general strat. You want to be rolling on one to get Sauralisks. You want to spam death rattles. And I would say, generally, the only time in which you want to tier up is after you get uh, 5 Sauralisks. So you have a golden and you have 2
Wait, so your
individual.
end game comp is something like one or two or a golden
It's
divine
usually 2
shield
golden
dude,
Sauralisks.
and then like two golden swordless, and
Yeah,
then
it's
the other, what, how many spots left on the board? 5 spots on the board are just like miscellaneous minions that don't do anything.
ideally it would be also 2 golden selfless heroes and also 2 things. I don't know. Or like 2 things and then sort of like
Yeah, your rotating spot
uh
for both.
yeah, and a ghoul. Because what you want to do is any sort of divine shields that they have, you want to make sure that they don't get to use it.
Okay.
While at the same time, you are able to utilize your selfless heroes, right?
Okay.
You're just like, okay. Look, this is not a strat that wins the lobby, but are you going to consistently enough get top 4 such that it can be a positive MMR build? Yes, definitely. People are using it, and in fact,
What's the
what you want to
lowest you
do with
get?
it?
Can you prevent getting like 7?
Yeah,
Because you're
you're
like on tier 1, right?
almost never getting seventh
Right.
with this strat
Okay.
because you're just scaling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They're
You
scaling from the
don't
almost very early like game.
Yeah, your scaling is actually insane.
Mm-hmm.
So uh you're not going to get seventh. Can you get six? Yeah, you can still get six. But you're really trying to contain the amount of MMR that you lose slash you can actually gain a little bit as well. So I would say this strat is better for those times in which you kind of have to pick a bad hero. So earlier today, I used the strat. Uh, my best choice was Shutterwalk, so I picked Shutterwalk, and my first tavern was immediately two Soralisks.
Mm,
Realizing that the Saurolisk strat means I literally do not use my hero power at all.
right.
I'm a worse patchwork,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a bad hero. What are my chances in a world full of Rafams and Yogs and Daryls and whatever? Not great. So I just picked this strat, and I think I got like what was it? 4.5 with it
Mm-hmm.
because I faced a Murloc guy a little bit earlier. It was like a little bit unlucky, not super unlucky. And I'll just take that, right? That's what I'm supposed to get as Shadowball,
Mm.
kind of like a 4.5.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, cool. This build did what it was supposed to do. And if you play it with heroes such as, so heroes that are good for it. Reno, Malagos is pretty good. Obviously, some of the best heroes are really good with it, like Daryl and Nozdormu. But if you're playing Daryl and Nozdormu, I would say you probably just want to play them normally, or
Mm.
with Daryl, normally means how you normally play Daryl, because it's almost a waste for you to fall into this strat when they have such better strats. Like Nozdormu can just try to win, and Daryl can just do his dancing thing. So I would say have this in your pocket. If you get a Saurolisk, and especially double Saurolisk in your beginning tavern, like turn one, think about it for a second. Consider your hero. Think about whether or not it's appropriate. Now, it's an easy choice if you're.
Where do you put your Divine Shield guy positioning wise?
It depends on where I am in the game. Because at the
Like
beginning of the
late
game,
game.
late game,
Yeah.
late game. I mean,
Like, let's say you have two golden Saurolisk, or just two big anything, right? Like, this
sure.
also applies to, let's say, Darrow if you don't get a Divine Shield. Just two big, non-divided Divine Shield big things. Then you have this one Death Rattle give Divine Shield guy, and the rest of your four minions are whatever tavern tier you are, normal tempo minion.
Well, it'll depend on kind of like what comp I go up against, right? If I'm facing and the hero. So for example, hero specific, if I'm facing curator, they will obviously not obvious, but most of the time
Uh-huh.
have
Divine
an
Shield
annoy
first.
module on their
Yeah.
huge amalgam, right? So
Yeah.
you always want the selfless hero first.
Uh-huh.
If I'm facing any sort of mech build, obviously that
So
first.
if you need a bumper, you put it first.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm facing a build like dragons or beasts, typically I will want my big guys first to try to chunk something. Like for dragons, especially if it's like Dragon 5, they probably have a Nadina, right? They have a Nadina. So what I want to do is on the chance that I go first, I want to snipe that dragon before it can get a divine shield.
Mm.
Um, so I want to put that first. Against beasts, what you might want to do is put maybe, depending on the size of your things and everything, you might want to just front load both of your Sauralisks because what they'll tend to do is have one taunt that you want to burst through, probably
Mm.
Goldrin, and then assuming they have like a Mama Bear or a Cleave, something like
Mm.
that,
You
I
want to
want to
kill it
try to hit
first.
that before they can gain value off of it.
Yeah.
So this is very specific to the comp, but we can break it down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
against like beast, I want both of them first, and then I'll divine shield, sort of like to have them still divine shield those. Against dragons, I want one. So like the first spot is a Saurolisk, and then a selfless hero, because then the Nadina goes off, and then my selfless pings into one of the shields, and then we can do whatever, right?
Okay, so
Uh,
you would not put any of the normal minions before the Divine Shield just to try to not get the Divine Shield on them and to get the Divine Shield on a Saurolist.
the only time I would do that is if I'm facing Murlocs that I think have divine shields, and I don't have a ghoul. But this is
Okay.
why I think the ghoul is important.
Uh-huh.
Like the ghoul is actually very important for this strat, and I think it's a part that people overlook. Like they'll just use ghoul as a cycle, but once you get a ghoul and you're in the mid game, consider just keeping that ghoul forever because you don't want divine shields from your opponents to mess you up. And this is why, like, rarely will I want to sort of put the other bad minions in front just so I can try to maximize the value because you want the initiative with your big guys. You don't want your
Mm-hmm.
opponent to attack in the exact order that they want to attack in without you having even the chance of disrupting that, right?
And so, do you ever taunt up your Sauralisks?
No.
Okay.
I rarely do, and also because I typically
Oh,
don't
that's
get
right. You're not there
Argus.
yet. I
So
forget
I'm
you're
like,
still on tier one in
no,
the strat.
But also no, just because they can easily counter it. Like if you're facing the same guy, if you find yourself in the rare position in which you're like heads up, which is kind of rare with this strat, I'm gonna be
Hmm.
honest. But if you do find yourself in that position and then you taunt up your Saurolisk, it's gonna be GG because all they
Hmm.
have to do is get one small poison and
Hmm.
you're screwed. You're dead. Um, so yeah, yeah, that's the strat. And what you want to do if you find yourself in a lobby, because it's possible where you find yourself in a lobby and two, three people are doing this, that is a green light for you whenever you face one of those guys to power level. It doesn't matter. The most damage they're going to deal to you is like
Hmm.
3, 4 damage.
Okay.
They're just going to deal like 3, 4 damage. Pretend they're a ghost. Pretend they're a ghost, and then just power level such that yeah, they'll beat you up. It'll the fight will look really really bad because they'll have like 40 health by the end of the battle, and
Right.
then they'll dink you for 3 or 4 damage. But you're on tier 5 now. So
Well,
that's
they deal 3 to 4. Oh, that's right, because they're only on tier 1, so they
they're
actually
only on tier 1.
literally deal 3 to 4 damage.
They literally deal 3 to 4 damage.
Okay, all right. Man,
They
gotta scout more now.
literally only deal 3 to 4 damage. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. And then sometimes they go up to tier 2, so they increase their damage significantly. Ooh.
Hmm. Okay.
But yeah, because everything else is gonna die, right? All of the little
Right.
shitters that they have tossed out there. The two Sauralisks, the two golden Sauralisks, are probably gonna live, and that's it. So yeah. And yes, you should definitely be scouting now because if you face one of those guys, it is a green light to level. It doesn't matter how weak you are at that point because they can't kill you.
Right, right, right.
And the damage they deal is extraordinarily negligible. So that's how you fight against this.
Interesting.
Just treat those people as if they are extraordinarily weak ghosts, even
Hmm.
though they'll beat
They'll
you up a
win.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll win,
Like
but
treat them as ghosts,
mhm.
unless you're about to die.
Yeah. So that is a big part of the meta right now. Saurolisk, Divine Shield, Strats. Now, what is the other part of the meta? Tier 6. Just tier 6. You can call it, like tier 6 beasts with like mama bears and, golden mama bears. You can
Wait,
call it
what's tier 6 beast? I only know the Baron beast comp. What's the
it's
Mama beast comp?
it's mama bear beast instead of Goldrin Baron
So
beasts.
what's in a Mama Bear beast comp? I don't even know about this.
Mama bears and beasts.
Huh?
That's it.
What
I don't know
beast?
what
Just like random beasts and then Mama Bear?
random. I mean, obviously, you want the cave hydras. You want, like the gas coilers. Savannah Highmanes are fine. Iron, Direhorn is fine. Goldrins are still fine. I don't know what more explanation you want. Literally, just by
And
saying
that's an
Mama
endgame
Bear
comp? That
Beast,
doesn't feel so powerful.
it's good. How are you 10K but you don't know Mama Bear Beasts?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Comps don't matter for the most part, you know?
Oh my
Like,
god.
they're like low on the tier of like stuff that matters in BGs.
Okay, okay. In one of your games, you must have picked Mama Bear to some extent,
Yeah, yeah. I
correct?
mean, I picked Mama Bear before, but I've always been confused as to what to do afterwards because Mama Bears don't fit into the Death Rattle comp, you know? So if
Right.
I
So
have a Death Rattle
for
comp going,
Death
I
Rattle,
don't even take
it,
it,
oh,
or I take
oh,
it as like a buff almost, right? Like as a +4/+4 buff.
sometimes you do that. Sometimes you do that, right? Like you'll just give +5/+5 to your beast, but you have the Baron and you have the Goldrin. Uh, but when okay, hear me out. Sometimes you don't have Baron,
Yeah.
but you have a Mama Bear.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and in those instances,
But
you do.
like that doesn't feel like a real comp. You know what I mean? That just feels like, oh,
Oh,
here's a bunch of stuff that's
it is.
decently large.
No, I don't know what you mean because it totally is a real comp.
But like it doesn't like synergize with each other. You're just getting a +4/+4 buff onto
It's
your
+5/+5.
minion.
They're
Sorry,
very late
a
on.
+5/+5 buff onto each of the new minions that you get. That's it.
Okay.
But you could do that with anything. Like that's not a particularly that doesn't feel very endgamey. Is my
Well,
point,
no,
you
no, no,
know?
I mean, after you have a mama bear, right?
Uh
You
huh.
like get, you triple other stuff, you do whatever. That's like saying it's like, oh, one individual mackerel without any sort of support doesn't do anything. It's like, yeah, well, So, anyways, moving on. The meta right now is a lot of people trying really, really hard, leveling really, really fast to get the tier 6 units, right? Getting the Caligos, getting the Mom Bears, getting the Mackerel as well. And it's made the meta kind of unenjoyable for me. This is the reason why I was just like, screw it. Once I fell down, I was like in a kind of a poor mood. I was like, ugh, spent so much time. And I was like, all right, I'm not loving the meta, but I do like figuring stuff out. So,
Mm-hmm.
MMR side, let's just try to figure stuff out, right? But the reason I didn't like the meta, and then I went on my little experimentation spree, went down to ADWCTA levels of MMR, back over 11K, so I can come onto the podcast and say I'm still an 11K player. um, but it really is feast or famine. There's not really in between. It's like, what is tier 3, 4, and even 5? It's like, what are they used for right now? It's for you to have stepping stones, for you to just sort of, like grab something here, grab something there on your eventual path to tier 6 units, whether it's tripling to tier 6, whether it is actually getting to tier 6, like actually being in tier 6.
Mm-hmm.
That is the meta right now. And
Okay, I will say that having no idea what tier 6 like stuff is for the most part and not being able to pull it off, and also literally not knowing how to do that tier 1 thing, the tier 5 and tier 4 stuff that I've been doing have been getting me fourth and third places, and even like recently, like very consistently, which is how you rank up. So I'm
you
not
can still play that
like,
way.
I don't feel
But
like it's not like there's no place for them. It's just that they're not exciting. They've
no, no,
never been exciting, and now there's just
no.
like two even more exciting things that are like being added to like stuff that works on tier 6.
I mean, I'm just laying out what the meta is, right? So this is what
Mm-hmm.
people are doing. I'm not saying that this is the way
Yes.
you have to do it, but this is what people are doing.
Well,
So
see,
if
but I
you
feel like before this, like if you talk about like 2 weeks ago, like before this Saurolisk thing, what people were doing was just tier 6 stuff. Like everyone was just going for tier 6, and then you had like maybe one guy do mechs, and maybe one guy do shooty demons. More likely, one guy doing one of the two, and the
you
rest
had
were
a
all going
little
for
bit
tier
more
6.
people doing like divine shield, menagerie things, but more
I see
importantly,
very little of that.
I'm more okay with all tier 6 strats just because when people are doing that, at least we're racing to make the game interesting, right? The
Mm-hmm.
worst thing about Sourlisks is that it is boring for you to play and boring for other people to play against. There is nothing exciting here, and it drags the game on forever because you're not dealing any damage. You always win, but you never deal any damage. So that's part of why I don't enjoy the meta. I do agree. It's not like, oh, this rushing to tier 6 is anything new. It's been like that for a while, but we're introducing on the flip side something that, in my opinion, and because fun is always going to be subjective, extraordinarily boring and
Mm-hmm.
not anything that I like.
Like
Like
from
even
how
these
you
days,
described it, it feels like a dumber version of demons. Like from back when the
it is
demon
the
meta
dumbest
was.
version of demons. It is the dumbest version of demons. Yes. It is. Here's the thing. It's an even cheesier version of pogos. Less like it's more powerful than pogos, but it's like even
Wait,
a
is it more
cheesier
powerful than
version.
Pogos? Can't you like give Pogos the divine shield stuff? Wouldn't that just make Pogos like more powerful?
What? Wait, what about pogos? Huh?
Because Pogos you can give enhances or whatever the hell the thing that gives the divine
Annoy
shield to.
modules?
Yeah, you give annoying modules to them. So wouldn't they just be like better endgame than Sauralisks? Even if they're obviously harder to pull off.
That's the thing. They're harder to pull
Oh,
off.
so you just mean powerful as in like yeah, okay. You don't mean actual
Starlords
power.
are extraordinarily consistent.
Okay,
That's
so
what
you
you're
don't
going
you don't
for.
mean actual power. You mean like how good they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. No,
okay.
it's a much better strat. And here's the thing with pogos. Like, if you guys watch the two Shutterwalk Pogo clips on YouTube right now, haha, in which I got first place with both of them, you'll notice that for the beginning and for a lot of the plays, I'm buying a lot of other units. I'm trying to set myself up in the best way possible. It takes a lot more strategy than the Saurolisk
Merps,
playstyle.
back in December of 2019, you
Hmm.
told me you would show me how to play Pogo.
You can
It
just
is
watch the YouTube
now
video.
nearly June in
Yeah, you can just watch the YouTube
2020.
videos.
I still have not gotten a personal tutoring session on how to do Pogos.
Well, you got those great VODs just waiting for you where I perfectly explain my plays. All right.
Yeah,
You should watch.
I'll check them out.
You should check them out. But yeah, that's sort of why I went on my little personal BG journey. All right. I was like, ugh, I'm really not enjoying the game right now. Let's just focus on reinvigorating my interest for it, finding some stuff I like, failing way too many times with Khadgar and Bran, succeeding sometimes, but failing way too many times, and then coming back up. But I do hope that Blizzard does something to shake up the meta soon. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, it's broken, you have to fix it. I'm just saying I am not really enjoying where we're at, where we're seeing a decent amount of people go Sorolisks, a lot of people go mackerels and Caligos. Um, it's just not the sort of game that I find that rewarding. And we'll see what they do with it, if anything.
I'm sure they're gonna do something with it. Like I keep saying, they're not shaking up BGs. They still have not shaken up BGs. It's been a
No, not really.
really freaking long time now since they've shaken up BGs. And
We
it's
need
BGs. It needs to be shaken up even more frequently than the arena. I've
right.
mapped it out. Like, yeah, I don't
They
know.
need to introduce pirates or something, right? They
Oh
need
god.
yeah, well,
Oh
something just
god. Just
I
swap
know.
out a few units for some new units. You'll be fine.
That's fine.
You don't need to throw pirates in.
That's fine too. Also, maybe change macros a little bit. I'm getting
Yes,
pretty annoyed with
yes.
macros.
Macros are a good thing to change or get rid of altogether.
I'm not a huge proponent of getting rid of macros. The
I'm all
problem
for
I have with
getting rid of it.
macros is that okay, if you look at their critique of Cobalt, right? Cobalt Guardian, the main critique was like this unit is too powerful slash splashable, and they put emphasis on that as well. It's like Cobalt Guardian is too splashable, like it fits into any comp. I understand that yes, you do have to give some support to macros, but it really is just get a divine shield and find a Toxfin, and suddenly, like, it doesn't matter what comp you have, you can always find room to put macro in there.
Hmm.
And the worst thing about it is the ping pong effect. And at least with Cobalt Guardian, the refresh is something that it's not random. The attacks are random, but the refresh isn't really random, right? Like it goes a certain way, and you know what to expect. Right now, you just have these mackerel versus mackerel, death matches where it's just like divine shields going off left and right, and who's going to attack into the other mackerel when the divine shield is off slash on, and that's also not something I enjoy. Because there was a recent game in which I had, um, uh, oh, I was, I think, Rafam, and, Boohoo, Rafam. I had Bran, I had Divine Shielded, like 60/60 Murlocs. I didn't find a mackerel. And of course, who do I lose to? Facing, it was a guy who had two mackerels and nothing else. just two mackerels and some divine shields, and it's like, create your own fiesta. So, um, don't love that effect. Like, I don't like the mackerels splashability. Oh, hopefully that's a word that we can use in BGs, and I don't like what it makes the battles into. Like, there's already enough randomness with the attack order, and it's frustrating to some extent, but it is something that I think a lot of people are willing to accept. Mackerels add another level of frustration, and I don't enjoy playing it. I certainly don't enjoy playing against it. Um, and I would not be sad for them to change it in some way. I don't think you need to remove it. I think the first change you can make is that mackerels don't refresh off other mackerels. I would love that. We talked about this before.
Macros don't exist.
Or we could just take it away.
That's my solution to this. I don't think it promotes like fun gameplay. I don't know. But
It
people
doesn't.
think different things are fun. Like even without double macros, I don't think the idea of macro itself is particularly fun.
Yeah.
Because it's just like it's mechs, but like with divine shields. Like why would you do that? Like if you're going to make mechs do that, don't make macros do that. And it's a murloc for it's doing too much random stuff. Like it's almost designed to be the end game comp, from the way it's designed. So the alternative is that they go in the direction where they make like 3 more end game comps and stick them in the game, and then they're like, oh, now instead of having 2 end game comps, you have 6. Look, diversity. But you have the same problem, which is that everyone's shooting for end game comps. And I don't know. That's like what they're doing. Like if you look at Arena and then you take out the viability of aggro decks, and you just force everybody to play to the end of their deck, and then you see who wins. Like you see who ended up dealing the most damage to the other person by the time that the one person, like both people, run out of their decks. This is not going to be that fun of a game. I'm not saying you can't balance it, but it's not as fun as having these layers of like being able to go more tempo or be mid range or go slow. All right. Well, I think that's it for the BG meta discussion. Question from the GOAT, brought to you by our patrons. Question from the GOAT, Merps. What's happening with your life? It's Memorial Day. Everything's open now. Sort of, kind of, asterisk.
I'm not going anywhere. Like Virginia and DC is still not open. I am not going anywhere. Okay. I'm going to be living the degenerate gamer life. I've been playing Deep Rock Galactic these days. It's a pretty fun game. Hashtag not sponsored. just enjoying this game. But it's a mix between Left 4 Dead and Terraria. So it's been pretty fun. I've been enjoying that game whenever I'm not doing Brand Khadgar stuff. That's pretty much it with my life. I told you about this game too. You said you were too busy.
Yeah,
although...
I'm super busy. I can't do anything right now. I'm like, I have to buy furniture and basically outfit an entire like ridiculous house that we bought that we're moving into next month, hopefully.
Wow, Poggies.
We've owned it for a month. We have not moved in yet. It's been like a third job, like a second and a third job. It's just so much work because we have no furniture because we live in a 1-bedroom apartment right now. And
you don't have to furnish it all immediately.
Yeah, we've realized that we can't. That's what I want to do. Like, I would want to just get everything done and then live in a nice house. But we're gonna have like half the rooms be basically empty when we move in. But I at least need a bedroom and a living room. Like the things you would normally have in a 1-bedroom apartment, because we're not moving all of our furniture over because they're like dead. Most of them are dead. Some of them we're moving, but they're not going to fit the new space. So I at least need a bedroom and a living room. I mean, don't think that's too much to ask for.
No. When you say a bedroom and living room, you mean fully furnished and looking like it came out of a catalog kind of thing?
Well, okay. I mean, like, otherwise, like, currently, if I were to move today, right? If the movers came and moved today, we would have a mattress on the floor. We would have an alternate air mattress that was like, $50 on Amazon or something. For our bedroom possibilities, those would be the choices. And for living room, we would be able to probably sit on the air mattress, and we'll use the regular mattress as a mattress, and have a TV on a TV stand. We will not have a table to eat on. We will not have just stuff that you normally expect to like live in. We just won't have them because we're getting rid of our bed. Our sofa's going onto the 3rd floor. Like it's all sorts of stuff. Like there's a lot of logistics going on. A lot of logistics.
A lot of
I've been
logistics.
running so many numbers. Like brand new is so annoyed at me at this point. I've been running numbers for budgets. I've been running numbers for spacing of how to fit stuff into stuff. I'm like really into furniture. I can tell you guys so many stories of when I was a kid and I would just walk through furniture stores like with my free time and like just walk around. We didn't need furniture. We didn't have any money to buy furniture, so clearly we like never were going to be able to buy anything from a furniture store, right? We'd always like our furniture is just the free stuff people leave in front of their lawns. Because they're free. Why would you like actually pay money for it? And furniture is expensive. So I've been like just really into furniture ever since I could like, afford furniture. Whether it was like IKEA or like some better stuff later. And now I have a nice house, so I want like nice furniture to go with the nice house.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Something about furniture stores. I just really like walking through them and seeing all the possibilities, even if it's a furniture thing, right? Like you can only commit to one thing.
I mean, it's not the weirdest thing about you, so it's
Yeah.
okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So that's what I've been doing with my life. It's been eating up a lot of my hours, and it will probably continue to do so for the near future. Um, and yeah, my video game time. The last game I played was Three Houses, Fire Emblem, and since then I played no other game besides Hearthstone. And I have
Wow.
at a certain point for like that like 2 week period, maybe 3 weeks, I played some extra BGs on my like own time in order to get to 10K, and then I wrote the guide, and then I basically stopped playing BGs for fun, like outside of the stream, like maybe a couple of runs a week, right? Like literally like 1 or 2 runs a week, when I have some time and I want to like unwind. Um, what I am really excited about, though, really excited about, is Space Force that's coming out to Netflix. I think it's is it out tomorrow? Is it already out? Is it out next week? It's out sometime very, very, very soon, and I can't wait to binge it. It's on Netflix, and it's Steve Carell in The Office again, basically by the creators of The Office, or some of the creators of The Office. I don't know, but it looks good, and everybody should watch it, even though I haven't seen it yet. Like they can't mess that up. It's one of those things where if they mess it up, that would be a crime to like I don't know to comedy.
That's true. Because Steve Carell in that sort of environment slash element is
Yeah,
yeah,
and they
it's amazing.
it's in the Donald Trump era, and it's about starting Space Force. Like,
Right,
come
right.
on, you can't mess that up. You can maybe this may not be like Emmy winning, but you can't actually mess it up.
It's true. I actually totally forgot about it. Like I heard about it and I forgot about it. So this is a good reminder for me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna definitely watch
Oh yeah. That's the show I've been excited about for like months. Just like circling on my calendar and waiting for it. Um. Meanwhile, the more trashy show I've been watching is Married at First Sight. They did a season in Charlotte. The latest season was in Charlotte, so me and Brandy started watching it. It's a show that's literally about people signing up for arranged marriages, non-Indian people signing up for arranged marriages.
it.
I
Oh,
feel like
I
all the arranged marriages I know in real life are from like Indian people and like Arab.
why are you watching that show instead of 90 Day Fiance, which is a
Um,
superior show?
is it? I don't know. I
It
don't know
is.
any of these shows. It's just the one that brand new put on.
Oh no, 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 no. 90 Day Fiance.
I saw
Please.
the one with the guy with no neck and the Filipino girl.
Yes. No neck Ed.
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw like clips from that she was watching. It was annoying to me more than anything else. But maybe that was just
That
that
one
character.
is pretty annoying, but No Neck Ed has obtained a lot of fame for not having a neck. Um, but no, the other relationships, if we want to call it that, are
Yeah.
very interesting and bingeable and just complete train wrecks.
Okay.
Complete utter train wrecks. And the best part about that show, like 90 Day Fiance, is they get the other couples to comment on every other couple. So you have these people
How
like
many do they do at a time? How many couples are there at a time?
in a season. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't really. I don't
Okay.
remember. But yeah. So during like recap episodes, they stir the pot very, very well.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. I mean, I just need something to like zone out on while I deal with all this like furniture stuff and financing.
Yep.
Oh my god, the financing. So many finance stuff. It's like I really feel like I'm about to like force myself to get to the point where I've graduated school again and I have all this like ridiculous debt that I have to pay off for like the next few years of my life. Except this will be way more than a few years of my life.
All
uh,
right. That's what's
all
going on.
right.
Hopefully, you guys are doing well out there.
That's it for this episode. Next week, hopefully, we have a special guest. We'll see.
We do.
We
It
do
has
have
been
a special
confirmed.
guest. Is it confirmed?
Yes, Slissa will be on next weekend. If you guys don't know, Slissa is a leaderboard BG player. She was also a high legend constructed player. And she'll be joining us to talk about BGs, but as well as her streaming career, her views on Twitch, and a little bit about how her history of being a teacher has helped her with Hearthstone and Twitch in general. So that should be exciting.
All right. So, see you guys next week. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
Merps, bye bye.